I was feeling great. I felt like nothing could stop me. Not bad, Sedge, not bad at all. Mischievous grin, words of praise, yada yada. Okay. Leaving the room, we took a right turn down the corridor. We followed it for a while coming to an intersection. To the left is the staircase, and then going forward goes to the guards room. So we go back up the stairs, according to the map that I've made on my lap. Passage soon ended at the foot of some stairs. With Kid taking the lead, we climbed up the stairs to the narrow staircase. We reached the top, we found ourselves at the end of the long, straight corridor. We continued onwards. And then we should go straight and get to the dungeon. We followed the corridor, eventually reaching a fork in the path. The path to the left would take us back to the atrium with the fountain. Would take us to the old sturdy door. Towards the cell, yeah. We continued down the corridor, eventually reaching an old, rather sturdy-looking door. Okay. Right. We got the key we got from that creepy old goblin should do the trick. Kid slipped the key into the lock. The heavy door groaned slightly as it slowly swung open. There we go. I don't know why, but I had a moment with that. Clammy air rose up around our feet, as if crawling blindly through the darkness. This didn't seem like the kind of place anyone in their right minds would visit voluntarily. That's not good. And neither is the siren outside. Oh, I don't know if that's in my game that noise is coming, or if that's coming from... Nope, that's coming from my game. I thought that was somebody's bass going insane outside my window. Okay. Oh, no, wait. Wait a second. That is also somebody's bass going through my window. That's why I can feel it in my feet. We pushed through the heavy iron door that We pushed the heavy iron door the rest of the way open and stepped into the darkness. There was a row of cells, all locked behind iron bars. 1, 2. Oh, Gulliver, Miguel, Zaradon, forgive me. Please, forgive me. Oh, Gulliver, Miguel, Zaradon, forgive me. Please, please, forgive me. We heard the voice from a third cell, whimpering and crying pathetically. I strained my eyes to look inside. Faintly, in the darkness, I could see something that looked like an old man sitting on the floor. So this was the source of the voice. Probably General Viper. Oi, you all right, mate? Kid called out to the figure. Forgive me. It's all my fault. It's all my fault. The dragoons never deserved this. General, Lady Riddell, oh, forgive me. I beg you. The old man didn't seem to respond to us at all. He only sat facing the wall, begging for forgiveness. For who knew what? Hello? Can you hear me? Asked Kid, trying again. There's no getting through to him. His real self will have long since retreated inside the shell he has created, said Miguel, cutting her off. Shell? What do you mean? I asked. He has built a shell around the core of his psyche in order to shield himself from the truth. He is running from something terrible. He has seen something, or been through something, or has done something. And so he has created his own world on the inside as a final refuge. The outside world lost to him forevermore. I looked at Miguel in surprise. I detected a hint of unspoken sadness in his words, and for some reason he was looking at Kid, watching over her as she stared at the man in the cell. Seeming to notice my gaze, Miguel turned back to face me, assuming his usual emotionless expression once more. We live in a world of sorrow and foolishness. It is only inevitable that some would try to escape it. But despite his hard words, his eyes retained a light of softness, his steely gaze giving way to a gentle light. Do you understand? I think so. I gave a slightly evasive answer. You seem confused. I don't blame you. You'll come to understand eventually. Look, by the time that you're 30, I completely understand what you're talking about. Miguel looked at me and Kid. What was all that about, I wondered. We're not going to get much out of him. He's miles away. Let's just leave him and try someplace else. Kid made for the dungeon. Wait, called Miguel. Oh, sorry. It was Kid that said it first, so... We're not going to get much out of him. He's miles away. Let's just leave him and try someplace else. Kid made for the door to the dungeon. Wait, called Miguel. We must find some way to get this man to speak. What for? I mean, he's speaking already. None of it makes sense. What are you after? Some things he said piqued my curiosity. He mentioned the dragoons, and Riddell too. So? You said the dragoons are ancient history, snapped Kid. Besides, how can we trust anything he said? He's clearly gone off his rocker. She had a point. The old man had long since cut his ties to the real world. What did Miguel expect for him to say? I think this is why Grismeld wanted us to come here. Without missing a beat, Miguel replied, We simply have to bring him back to reality. And how are we going to do that? You want me to do a little dance for him? Or something to get his motor going? Please don't. I don't think that's going to change. He's out, man. Doing a sensual dance is not going to change anything. No, please don't do that. The words were out of my mouth before I could stop them. What are you saying? Her eyes narrowed threateningly. You don't think anyone would want to see me dance? Is that it? What? No. That's completely the opposite. In fact, actually, you know what? Just ignore me. No, this should be good. Enlighten me, why don't you? He's right. It won't work. God bless. Thank you, Miguel. Save me. And just like that, Kid's fist was flying towards Miguel's face instead of mine. Okay, thank God. He dodged the blow with ease and carried on as if nothing had happened. To be fair, you're also 17 and shouldn't be doing that kind of dance anyway, but I digress. We must break the shell he has created and drag him back to the real world. I feel like that's almost much more harsh and evil than just letting him sit like this, but... And in order to do that, we will need some kind of key. Something that will reach him even through the barrier he has erected. Yeah? And where are we going to find this key? Asked Kid suspiciously. I don't know, came Miguel's simple reply. There has to be someone in this manor who can tell us. We have to go back to Lady Venus. You don't mean... You're not talking about Riddell, are you? I am. Oh, okay. I was thinking that it would be the mirror lady, but okay. Miguel replied with a nod. All right, fine. Don't know what the heck you expect her to tell us, though. Kid turned on her heel and made for the door. We left the gibbering old man in the dungeon alone with his sorrow. Oh, I'm glad to not have that in my ears anymore as a sound, because I feel like I was actually going insane myself. I followed Kid and Miguel back out the corridor. Okay, so according to this, at the fork in the road, we go back through the atrium, we go straight, and then we take the first right. We go straight through the right. Okay. Go back through the atrium, we go on the second right, we take the door. Came to a dark branching path. The path to the right would take us to the atrium with the fountain, and then going straight we go down the stairs. So we go back through the atrium. The corridor was dark and clammy. We pressed on. Soon the entrance to the atrium came into view. I'm going to take a second to save it on part 2. Okay, so now we're in the atrium. We arrive back at the atrium. Was that wall red before, or was it only after we drained all the water? Because I thought it was white the first time. We arrived at the atrium, an exit leading to Riddell and Lynx's room gaped on the opposite side of the cavernous space. We continue onward. I don't know why we would stop there, but okay. Leaving the atrium behind, we immediately found ourselves at a fork in the path. Go straight or right up the stairs. Continue on the path ahead. We left the atrium and continued down the path ahead. Eventually, we came across an ornate door on the right-hand side. That's the one we go into. It was Riddell's room, Lynx's daughter. We would go inside because this is her room, so she should be here. We found ourselves in a tidy, welcoming room. The knickknacks and curios dotted around this place seemed to be well loved. The stately desk and the cozy-looking bed nearby, meanwhile, suggested the room's occupant was no stranger to luxury. Though the room was richly furnished, it somehow felt awfully lonely. Is there someone there? The voice of a young woman came in. We shrank into the shadows. Hey, that kind of looks like her, with the snake on her head. The woman appeared from deeper within the room. She was lightly made up and had gentle, unthreatening air about her. It was Lynx's daughter. Strange. I'm sure I heard someone. I was at a loss for what to do at that moment. But before I had time to do much more than hold my breath, Kid had already darted over. Hello! And thrust her knife out, stopping. Don't do that, Kid! And thrust her knife out, stopping the blade only a hair's breadth from the woman's neck. Huh. Where's the frozen flame? Answer me! Her voice came out with a harsh growl. I rushed in to hold Kid back before she could hurt the poor woman. Kid, do we really have to do it this way? Shut your trap, Sedge. Riddell couldn't help but giggle as she watched us bickering. What are you laughing at? Kid shot Riddell a harsh look. It's just, you don't seem like thieves at all. You little... You want me to cut you, go? I'd be surprised if that knife could cut anything. For a moment, I felt faint, imagining Riddell on the floor covered in blood. But then, clang. Kid had thrown her knife to the floor, and I saw that it was only a letter opener. Didn't think you noticed. Whatever. I'm not here to mess around with killing the likes of you anyway. I have no desire for bloodshed either, said Riddell in a voice that was almost a whisper. I am not your enemy. In fact, I want to help you. There wasn't a hint of hesitation or deception in her voice. Let me guess, you're trapped in the manor too. Riddell only lowered her eyes sadly in response to Kid's question. The frozen flame should never have been allowed to fall into Lynx's hands. You poor thing. Riddell spoke quietly, but deep emotion clearly underpinned her words. The flame was once the property of an ancient kingdom in the north, who kept it for generations. It was said to have an uncanny power to guide people and change history itself. After the kingdom fell, the flame changed hands countless times until eventually it came into my father's possession. That was before I was born. Sometime later, Lynx became aware of the flame's true value and approached my father under false pretenses of friendship. Not a soul suspected his true intentions were. And then, on that horrible day, he destroyed everything. He killed everything. Riddell shook her head and then buried her face in her hands. I don't care about the frozen flame. I don't care about that stupid accursed stone. It means nothing to me. I just want to take it away from Lynx and smash it into pieces right in front of him.
And
Only we can make that happen. Riddell looked up at surprise as Miguel spoke. No one else... Oh, no, that's him. No one else in the world can seize that jewel from Lynx. Riddell stared, speechless. And then, in a low voice, she whispered, What can I do to help you? There's a survivor of the Arcadia Dragoons in the dungeon who we want to help. And if we're to help him, we need your help, said Miguel, taking a step forward. What? That man is a traitor. It's because of him that Father... the Zorada... Please, it's the only way. Riddell turned her back to us and hung her head low. Oh, she's so cute! She looks nothing like actual Riddell. She kind of looks like Princess Peach, to be honest with you. The Chamber of Death. There might be something to bring him back to his senses there. I've been there. That's the one with the trap. After all, it was there that he chose to abandon his pride, his life. I assume the Chamber of Death must be the cell with the trapped ceiling? Riddell nodded. Yeah, this is going to be a problem. That thing damn near tried to kill us last time. You will need to take... Oh. You will need to take the analyzer with you. Oh, like the sword from... Oh, that's the old sword from the room with the old lady in it. That's the one... And that's one half of the miasmine, isn't it? It's a sacred sword said to have been forged by an ancient sage, and a sister blade to the crimson-cursed miasmine. The timeless blessing of the analyzer will surely keep you safe from the Chamber of Death's wickedness. It used to be such a sight to see in the hands of Zorada. It danced like the wind, shone like the stars, and struck like lightning. Lost again in memories of fonder times, Riddell once more bowed her head. Forgive me. I have little more to tell you. You've told us enough. We'll take our leave for now, said Miguel, turning and making for the door. I wish I had the strength to change things like you do, whispered Riddell, biting her lip. Come with us! Kid hesitated for a moment, seemingly deep in thought. It ain't about strength. It's about having purpose. Something to fight for. I will be praying for you. Kid shot Riddell a look over her shoulder. Great. Maybe you can cross your fingers, too. We left the room. I mean, I get it, but still, anything that we can get from Riddell would be great. Okay, left or right? So we go back towards the atrium. And then instead, we go up the stairs at the intersection here. I still remember all of this, but it's better on me to have this written, so this way I'm not relying solely on my memory, because my memory is being a problem as of late. So, though this is, I feel like, in either working memory as opposed to short term, so I think it might last longer. I don't know, when I'm not like trying to remember something, I tend to do better with remembering it. So, taking the corridor on the left or on the right would lead us to a dead end. The large door would lead us to the terrace. Straight takes us to the study. Terrace. Kept following the corridor. And then on the right-hand side should be an ancient-looking door. This was the clock tower. We opened the door. The analyzer should be in here. In we go. Kid still held her breath and reached for the handle. The door wasn't locked, and it swung slowly open. Yeah, so the analyzer should be here. The room was completely silent. There was no sign of life. That is a ticket to not getting turned into a minecart. Oh, into mincemeat, not minecart. The ancient sword was right where Kid had left it after pulling it out of the pile of junk. She ran over to where it lay. Looking down at the sword, Miguel muttered, 2 ancient blades, the sacred analyzer and the cursed miasmine. What are you on about, Mag? You know something about this Master Munin? Miguel said nothing. Well, it seems to mean something to you. It does. Uh-huh. Nothing to do with old friends I don't know about? Not exactly. An enemy, then? Not exactly. A little bit of both, man. Betcha it's a friend who had the miasmine that turned evil. Uh-huh. You've been getting weird, Mag. Well, whatever. Oi, numbnuts. Grab this thing for me, will ya? I was still standing by the doorway when Kid called over to me. Who, me? Yeah, you over there. What are you gonna make... You gonna make me lug this bloody thing around the place? Just a scrawny little girl, ain't I? Call yourself a gentleman. My jaw dropped. Scrawny little. Just dropped. I knew there wasn't anything I could say to her. Silently, I walked over to Kid and picked up the sword like I was told. Whoa! Nearly fell over. This thing was heavy. Good boy. Right off. To the chamber of death. Always on the prize, lads. Dragging the sword behind me, I followed Kid out of the room. Okay. Go straight to the steps and then up the stairs. So when we jump out of the corridor, we want to go to the right. So this is part of the other reason why I wrote it down, was this way my orientation could be correct for that. Continuing down the corridor, we came across a rather sturdy-looking door on our left. That's the treasury. We don't need to go in there. And a stairway leading up. We continued onward. We didn't go inside the treasury. Corridor ended at the foot of some stairs. With Kid in the lead, we headed upwards. It was dark, and the stairwell was narrow. We watched our footing carefully as we climbed. An old, sturdy-looking door loomed in the darkness. Went inside. Now that we have the sword that won't kill us. Well, this place is just as creepy as I remember. Lovely, grumbled Kid. She was looking at the stains on the wall. The ceiling had been pulled back up, but there was no reason to believe that it might not come grinding down again at any moment. Bearing in mind what Riddell had told us the room was called, it definitely wasn't somewhere we wanted to linger. Quickly, hissed Miguel, before crouching down and examining the ground for clues. Kid and I crouched down too. Whatever we were looking for, though, what could the old man have left in this room that would bring him back to reality? The flagstones of the floor were smeared with black, gooey substances that gave off an odd, rotten aroma. Old blood. I shook my head, trying to drive an uncomfortable thought from my mind. Kid saw me and clearly wasn't doing much better herself. She slowly turned, positioning herself so that she was facing away from the stains on the wall. There was no point in thinking like that. I just had to try, but then... Is there a new door? Door slammed shut, and the gears ground to life. Here we bloody go again. We have to stop it. If we don't deal with the trap, we'll never find what we're looking for. There's got to be a way to cut that. There's got to be a new option with the sword, right? Ceiling sank lower and lower. We ducked our heads, desperately trying to avoid the blades. Kid looked at me and screamed, "The sword! Use the analyzer!" What? How do you use the sword? Plunge the sword into the ceiling, into the ground? Into Kid? There, I drove the sword into the floor with all my might. Shock ran through the room. I could have plunged it into Kid? Good God. Beams of light scattered from the blade, covering the floors and walls and then racing upwards. The ceiling gave an almighty judder and then stopped. We made it. I sank to the floor helplessly, my heart racing. Thank gods for that. Hey, what was that? Kid was pointing at a part of the wall. It was where we'd seen a message written in blood. Guess we found what we were looking for. Part of the wall had collapsed, revealing a cavity behind what looked like a piece of solid stone. Inside, I could see something glinting faintly in the darkness. Kid reached in with her fingertips, carefully extracting whatever was from within. It was a slender ring with delicately engraved design that looked like an overlapping fern. The ring was adorned with several small rubies in a pattern that resembled a bunch of grapes. The crest of Arcadia. This must be the Arcadian signet. Kid put the ring on her middle finger, where it sat uneasily. It didn't seem to be her size. The rubies gave off an eerie glint. Right, let's not spend any more time in here than we have to. We managed to foil the trap and retrieve the Arcadian signet. I left the analyzer where it stood, and we exited the room. Okay, so we definitely have to be done with that room now. So we should be able to go all the way back down to the dungeon. The only room that we have not yet used is the piano room. So I'm willing to bet what's going to happen is we're going to go to the dungeon. The old man in the dungeon is going to tell us that we have to play something secretive on the piano in the piano room, in the organ room. But I bet you it's going to be whatever is in the music box that Riddell has. That's my bet. That's my guess as to what's going to happen with this game. So, okay, so Treasury, keep going straight. Continue onward. Suddenly, the darkness felt opaque. Something like a thick haze floated in the air in front of us, and then it took form, like someone blowing smoke into a person-shaped bottle. A ghost, bugger, that's out. Kid bit her lip. There wasn't anything she or I could do to deal with an enemy that had no physical body. I disagree, because I've done this once before. Miguel began to cast a spell. Jump behind Miguel so he can chuck me at it. Miguel cast me a glance and continued his incantation without missing a beat. Then he grabbed me by the scruff of my neck and threw me at the ghost. Ah! I emitted a strangled scream of horror that I'd probably never be able to recreate again, except I just did, earlier, the same scream, and tried to brace myself before I crashed face first into the wall. But the impact I was expecting never came. The core of the ghost, where its face seemed to be, had more substance than the rest of it, and I didn't just slip through like I thought I would. I oozed through it, like I was stuck in some kind of goo. You gods, it's disgusting. More disgusting than anything I'd ever known, and it was impossibly cold. It felt like it was draining all the heat right out of my body. It felt like it was draining my life force, in fact. I struggled to break free, but I could find no purchase in the gooey ectoplasm. The coldness became more and more intense, and soon I didn't even know what cold meant anymore. This could be it for me, I thought. I was consumed by despair. And then there was a surge of heat through the muscles in my neck, in the place where Miguel had grabbed me just a moment before. At the same time, his incantation echoed in my mind and my vision filled with a clear blue light. Did it. Sedge? Oi, Sedge! You still with us, mate? Someone was slapping me around the face. Someone who seemed to enjoy it immensely. Kid, stop it! Damn you! I leapt to my feet, wide awake in an instant. Mag, did you really have to use me like that? When dealing with foes who attack the mind, it is simplest to lure them in with bait, and use their intended prey's consciousness as a conduit in order to make an assault from an astral plane. A direct magical attack would have meant a lengthy battle and a far less elegant solution, he replied without a trace of guilt. All right, let's keep moving. Kid gave the order to continue, seemingly completely oblivious to my brush with death. Thanks, Kid. I was doing great. I felt like nothing could stop me. Not bad, Sedge. Not bad at all. Didn't know you had it in you. There was a mischievous glint in Kid's eyes. She rewarded me with a few rare words of praise. Aw, she likes me. Okay, so that was the treasury we passed. We gotta go past the clockwork room. Continue onwards. Next should be the terrace. Keep following the corridor. Then we should be at the three-way intersection. Oh, rattle. Kid stopped us. There's something there. I listened carefully. Rattle, rattle, rattle. Okay, this is new to me. A figure appeared in the darkness on the other side of the corridor. What is this thing? Oh, it's a skeleton. Cool. I like skeletons. They're easy. We readied ourselves for a fight. What was I going to do? Assess the situation. We squared off against the skeleton. It threw the sword it was carrying to the ground and took a step forward. And then it twisted its body into a strange pose. Wait, is it doing what I think it's doing? It proceeded to contort itself further and adopting a strange shape that can only be described as highly suggestive. For a moment, no one knew quite how to respond. What the bloody hell? What should we... Wait, kid, look at Mag. Mag seemed completely bewitched. There was no way he'd be of any use in this state. I attacked? Come on, then. I charged at the skeleton. I took advantage of the opening it created and lowered my sword, kicking it as hard as I could in its lower spine. There was an almighty clack as the bones snapped, and the skeleton fell in two. A split second later, Kid landed a massive blow on the top half. With its skull shattered, the skeleton immediately came to a halt. Mag, what the hell was that, dude? Yeah, guess you can't fight after all. And with that, we defeated the skeleton. I hope everyone forgives the egregious sin that was and is continually my Australian accent. Kid turned her attention back to Miguel. I can't believe this Drongo, though. Thwack. She brought her fist down hard on his head. Maybe that'll wake you up. Now, if we're done here, let's get a bloody move on. What was I... Ow! Well, that's what you get, man. I was doing great. Nothing could stop me. Yeah! Rewards of praise. Okay, go down the stairs. Went down the stairs. And then when we get down the steps, we're going to go through the atrium. And then we're going to go to the left. To the atrium on the left. I do appreciate, though, still that they tell us which rooms are which. When we're, like, after we've already been through them once. Pressed onward. Through the atrium. Through the corridor. Fork in the road. To the left and to the right. We go to the dungeon on the left. We continued down the corridor, eventually reaching an old, rather sturdy-looking door. Perfect. This place again. I was hoping I'd... I hope this was the last time I'd have to come here. Go inside. Okay. So far, so good. Having retrieved the Arcadia signet, we returned to the old man's cell. As soon as we got there, Miguel took a step forward and grabbed the bar. Hold on, I wanted to fix anything that I may have had to mess up in my pursuit of drawing this map. Just because at this point I want to make sure that my map is good and on point. So we have instead here Chamber of Death, clock room. Instead of putting a tree here anymore, I can just make it a T for the terrace. I'm pretty confident that we have the names of all of the rooms in there, so. Okay. As soon as we got there, Miguel took a step forward and grabbed the bars. Right, Selena? Which do you think? Do you think we're gonna snap him out of it, boy? Sorry. He's our cheerleader. We have to acknowledge the nice, beautiful black cat who's cheering us on. Anyway, as soon as we got there, Miguel took a step forward and grabbed onto the bars. They creaked and groaned as he heaved at them. Gritting his teeth, he summoned every ounce of his might, and slowly they bowed apart. Jeez, dude, are you sure you desire to be a mage and not a bodybuilder? He stepped into the cell through the gap, and Kid and I followed. The old man was exactly as we had left him, staring into space, muttering meaningless words. Kid walked over to him and crouched. She grabbed him by the collar and yelled, "Wakey, wakey, Granddad. We got a few questions for you. Here, get an eyeful of this. Ring any bells, huh?" Kid waved the Arcadian signet in his face, shaking him, roughly, all the while. The old man's head lolled as he limply allowed himself to be manhandled. Step between them and try to make her stop. I asked Miguel to make Kid stop. I'm going to let Miguel take the lead on this because I think he knows what he's doing in this case. I looked at Miguel in horror. Is this how we're going to break through his shell? Fear not. This approach is as good as any. But do we have the right to drag this old man back to reality like that? Hasn't he suffered enough? I am prepared to do anything to achieve our goal. Oof. That's not great, but okay. Miguel stared right through me with an ice-cold gaze. Oh, an Arcadian signet. A symbol of our vows bestowed only upon swore Arcadian dragoons. A low voice, almost a moan. I spun around in surprise. His eyes began to cloud once more. So, my former allies have finally come for me? I am to blame. It is because of my indiscretion that the frozen flame was stolen. And that of all the Acadian dragoons, only I remain here in the manor. But now all is well, for you have returned. Oi, Meged, Zorada, where have you been all this time? Did you return to Lake Stoic? Oh, God, dude, don't make me cry. Ugh. Never mind that, Granddad. Where's the frozen flame? Oh, no. Give us a clue. Anything. Come on, out with it. I couldn't decide if Kid sounded more annoyed or more desperate. Frozen flame? The old man looked momentarily confused. And then a wan smile crossed his face. My word, Lady Riddell. It's been far too long since last I had the pleasure. Why, you were only the third candlestick from the left. Oh. Why, you need only turn the third candlestick. Okay. From the left as you enter the main hall. That will open the underground vault, as you know. Does she? Okay, so we have third candle from left. Should I just play like all of my retro games using exclusively like a whiteboard map on my lap? Should I just from now on? I think any text-based adventure games that I have to play, because I definitely want to try to play Zork at some point in time. I think for that I'm gonna need to keep this whiteboard on hand. But anyway. Kid wrapped her arms around the old man and held him tight. And then in a trembling voice she whispered, I'm sorry. I promise we'll get it back. Man recoiled in horror, and then began to sob once more. I'm to blame. It's all my fault. Forgive me. Forgive me. Look, if you want to get out of here, now's your chance. But it was no use. He was too busy cowering and wailing to hear me. We're done, Sedge. We can't help him. And there's things we need to be doing. Thank you, I whispered to the old man before following Kid and Miguel out of the dungeon. That was the most heartbreaking part of this. Alright, so I was right. It is the main hall. So we go back through the atrium. Because that was the only room of everything else that we hadn't used yet. So, like every other room we had done to its completion or had some sort of action in. And we hadn't had any actions in any of the other, or in specifically the piano room. An exit leading to Lynx's and Riddell's room, and then the cavern of space continue onwards. Leave the atrium behind, fork in the path, up the stairs. Towards the stairs. Up we go, another intersection. Took the door on the right to the main hall. We continued onward past the stairs on the side for the passage to the main corridor. The 8 double doors, blada blada. We go inside the manor. Kid pushed open the heavy doors as quietly as she could and peered inside. It's been a while, by the way, since we saved. Just some food for thought. Looks like the coast is clear. We stepped into the main hall. Can I save it here? No. Dozens of candles provided a dim, flickering light, sending corners of the room dancing in and out of shadow. The great hall filled with a heavy silence, a silence unbroken save the ticking of a large clock that slowly counted the passage of time, as if waiting for something. Several portraits glared down at us with cold eyes. We moved through the feeble glow of the candlelight. "Third candlestick from the left," whispered Kid. 1, 2, 3. There. She reached out towards it. I held my breath as I watched. "Say your prayers, Lynx. We're coming for you." Kid turned the candlestick. The room trembled with a sudden rhythmic sound, as if a massive gear was turning. "What's that?" For a moment, I felt a strange sensation, as if I was floating. "Do you feel that?" I started to stagger. "The entire room seems to be moving downwards," replied Miguel. I couldn't quite believe it, but I also couldn't deny the feeling of the downward motion. The main hall was starting to sink into the earth. Then another rumble. The room's descent rapidly accelerated. Cold sweat dripped from my neck. My heart filled with a mixture of fear and anticipation. What was waiting for us down there? The frozen flame? Our prize at the end of this little adventure? But what was it really? Would it live up to our expectations? I tightened my fist where the slick was sweat. Oof. What were Kid and Miguel thinking? The room remained in a veil of silence. There we go. I'm ready. Come on, let me pause. As if in response to my thoughts, a quiet voice came next to me. It was Kid. I looked over to see her standing stiffly, staring forward, with her hands clenched into fists. "Sometimes I feel like I'm stuck in a losing battle. A fight I'll never win, no matter what I do." There's a side of her I never witnessed before. Even from this angle, I could see fear and doubt flickering across her face. I felt a tender sting in my heart. "What are you fighting? We'll win, I promise. There's nothing to worry about. Will win in the end, I promise." "Heh, Drongo." She gave a gentle smile. "Can't promise anything in this world, Serge. There's no guarantees. But thanks anyway." She grinned again, seeming a little embarrassed, and looked me straight in the eye. Then I had the strangest sensation. This wasn't Kid, or not the only Kid, anyway. I was overwhelmed by an inexplicable oddness of the idea. She noticed immediately, of course, that our little moment was over. The Kid I knew was back in the room. "Trying to catch flies, mate?" Oh, sorry. It's just for a moment there. I felt like you were someone else." "What are you on about?" Kid gave me a confused look, tilting her head. Oh, I betcha he felt the feeling of, Oh, wow, why can't I think of her name? Of Magnus's sister. Oh man, that's gonna get me. It must be because we're drawing near the frozen flame. Miguel's voice, as soft as ever, slipped, unbidden from the shadows. Huh? What the heck are the two of you on about? Kid turned towards him with another puzzled frown. There's another self within you, struggling to pull against the pull of the abyss. What had she been talking about? With a crash, split the silence, as if we collided into something. Scritch! A loud, metallic scraping filled the air. The room rocked and finally came to a halt. Looks like the end of the line. I'll change. Oh, great. The swelling grandeur of the organ suddenly filled the air. No one had touched it, and yet the keys of the pedals were moving by themselves. The melody it played was both unsettling and sad. Funeral tune, is it? Way to greet your guests. Kid took a long stride forward and then turned to face me and Miguel. Come on, let's go. Miguel and I gently nodded in our assessment. Kid grinned and then looked back to the door. I'm coming for you, Lynx. This will be the end of you. And with that, she led us from the hall. Please let me save it. We continued down a long, dark corridor with walls slick with condensation. The air was thick and heavy, as though ripe with the stench of death. We're really getting close to Link's hidden vault at last. Is there any turning back now for any of us? It won't let me save it. There's something strange about Kid that night. Miguel didn't seem to be his usual self either. To begin with, it was vanishingly rare for him to speak so much, let alone show any kind of emotion. What happened to make them change like that? Unable to take the silence anymore, I decided to speak. I had to ask the question that was on my mind all this time. What is the frozen flame? Why do you want the frozen flame so badly? What is the frozen flame? Is the frozen flame really just a jewel? There was only silence in return. And then it seemed like no one would reply at all. Miguel spoke. His low voice echoed through the corridor. It's a sacred stone that cures all ill, heals all wounds, and grants eternal life. Or, so some believe. In truth, it is part of a tremendous rock that fell from the skies long ago. That rock was the source of a hitherto unknown power, with which mankind's hidden potential was unlocked. You could say that it was humanity's dreams made manifest. But it was not always good to have one's dreams come true. Many were bewitched by that great power. Some were led astray by it, and even led to a kingdom's ruin. A kingdom once prosperous, yet now little more than fragments and dust. Its name lost to history. For a moment, I thought I heard a hint of pain and sadness in Miguel's voice. He's probably from that country. But maybe that was just my nerves. Wait, how do you know all this, Miguel? He said nothing. No. He stared at me with his piercing... No, that's not what I said. Thank you. My phone picked right on up and was like, hey, did you mean this thing? And it was like, no, I didn't. Thank you. Come on, give me a second. He stared at me, his piercing, dark eyes, and then continued onward in silence. Well, for a while, only the sound of footsteps echoed through the corridor, and then Kid gave a doubtful humph. Look, I don't know if all that stuff about the frozen flame is true or not. Whether here or there, to me. She raised her fist. We're here to settle a score with Lynx. By nicking the thing. That's all I know, and that's all I want to know. Had Lynx seen the frozen flame? Why had it been worth the risking so much for? We trudged on down the dark passage, each of us alone with our own thoughts. Concentrating on my footsteps, I lessened the burden of my worries somewhat, and felt renewed vigor to a degree. Suddenly, Miguel stopped in his tracks. Oh God, even the room stopped moving. Wait. Huh? Kid turned around, puzzled. Just then, a powerful light surged through the floor, and a ring-shaped sigil appeared. Damn, a blood circle. Kid and Miguel were at least quick enough to try to jump clear, but they weren't quite enough, and the three of us were trapped in a circle of blinding light. It's okay. Right 3, left 2. Oh, wow. Whoa. The sigil rotated left and right with us at the center, cutting off all routes of escape. Yeah, we're trapped. Man, we all look super weird. A wall of heat and wind blew around us. Swirling lines and spirals of light assailed up at us wherever we turned. Don't let it mesmerize you. Cover your eyes, shouted Miguel, raising a hand over his mask. Turn with the light, not against it. There has to be a way out. What? I can barely understand what's going on. Kid's elbow brushed against the wall of light surrounding us, sending sparks flying. Yeah. Ow. Be careful. Merely to touch it is more than enough to harm you. Stay well back. Slowly, I turned my body to follow the movement of the ring light, looking for a gap to escape through. To the right 3 times. 3 steps to the right. There, I see it. That's our way through. I found a gap in the wall of light and carefully walked through. Kid, Miguel, this way. We managed to get through the barrier unscathed. But we weren't out of the woods yet. There was still another wall of light, swirling with the great wind in front of us. Left 2. I slowly turned my body to follow through the movements to the ring of light, looking for a gap to escape. To the left twice. 2 steps to the left. There, I see it. That's our way through. I found a gap in the wall of light and carefully walked through it. Kid, Miguel, this way. Okay, one more time, to the right twice. We managed to get through the barrier unscathed, but we weren't out of the woods yet. There was still another wall of light swirling with a great wind in front of us. I slowly turned my body, following the movements through the ring of light, looking for a gap to escape through. To the right twice. 2 steps to the right. There it is, I see it. That's our way through. I found a gap in the wall and carefully walked through it. Kid, Miguel, this way. Good thing we saved that griffin mouse thing, or we'd be screwed. We did it. Suddenly, my body felt light, and I staggered 2 or 3 steps forward. We were back in the deserted passageway where we'd been walking down before the blood circle had happened. The sigil had vanished from the floor, and everything was silent, as if nothing had ever been amiss. And then I looked up. And then what happened? The door. Looks like we finally made it, boys. I can't save it still. This bothers me. Okay. Kid scrolled up to the door with a wicked grin on her face. The true frozen flame awaits. Miguel's eyes gave a glint from behind his mask, like glass catching moonlight in the darkness of the night. Let's go. Kid reached for the handle.